Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'd like to say buenos dias para todos hamzos and bienvenido para Dunmizo Senate Chambers. Bago na tempo, managos pa ba reconisa si Mr. Devin Macaranas para hu organudzong I man member este na komite. Senor Macaranas, please call the roll.
Senator Selena R. Babauta,
Present.
Senator Karina L. Magofnia,
Here.
Senator Paul A. Manglonia, Senator Donald M. Manglonia.
Present.
Madam Chair, 3 members are present, 1 member is absent.
Thank you, Mr. Macaranas. It is now 10:37 a.m. on this Tuesday, November 23rd. And with 3 members present, we have established the necessary quorum to conduct today's official hearing. For the record, Senator Paul A. Manglonia is excused. Moving on to administrative matters and housekeeping, this committee appreciates the cooperation of everyone in the chamber. We appreciate minimal distractions throughout the hearings and the proceedings today, so we ask that you please silence all electronic devices at this time. Also, I want to advise you guys that we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, on the legislature's pages. And if for any reason we need to take a break, the Facebook will continue to stream live without the sound, so people watching in their living rooms can see what's going on in here. Before I introduce the professional staff of your Legislative Bureau, I'd like to introduce the members of this committee present here today. To my left, we have Senator Donald Manglonia, who chairs Fiscal Affairs Committee. And to my right, we have Senator Karina L. Magofnia, who chairs the Economic Resources Development Committee in the Senate. At this time, I would like to recognize the professional staff of the Legislative Bureau. To my immediate left, sitting right below me, is our counsel, Mr. Joe Bermudez. To his right is Mr. Devin Macaranas, the legislative assistant assigned to this committee. We have our IT assistant, Mr. Delbert Camacho, and we have our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Ben Terlahi. Again, I want to welcome all of you this morning, most especially to the nominee, Mr. Marvin Igor de Leon Guerrero, and we extend our warm hafade to all of you. Shortly, we will begin our confirmation hearing of Mr. Marvin Guerrero to serve on the Marianas Visitors Board of Directors. And later on this afternoon, we will be hearing from 2 nominees for the Northern Marianas Technical Institute, Mr. Roland Johnson and Miss Catherine Atton. Mr. De Leon Guerrero was nominated by Governor Palacios on August 29, 2023 to represent the 3rd Senatorial District. And I am Selena Babauta, the chair for this committee. Next up on the business for today, we have the adoption of the agenda. For the record, the agenda was published on November 8th in compliance with applicable rules and statutes. I now recognize Senator Karina Magofnia for the proper motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved, Chair.
Thank you. A motion has been made and it has been seconded. Are there any objections or concerns on the motions or any amendments? There being no objections raised, the agenda for today's hearing is hereby duly adopted. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Oscar M. Babauta and the nominee, Mr. Marvin Igor de Leon Guerrero, to please come and join us in the chamber. Mr. Babauta's role is to formally introduce the nominee to the committee before we begin our question portion of the hearing. You may proceed, Mr. Babauta, when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and your esteemed members of the EAGI committee. It's always good to see you once again, and we welcome all of us back from the island of Tinian. I know that yesterday we were in Tinian to conduct another hearing. That being said, good morning, Dan Hoffaday, Tiro, Chairwoman Selena Arbote, and the honorable members of the EAGI committee. For the record, my name is Oscar M. Babauta, the Special Assistant for Administration under the Office of the Governor. On behalf of Honorable Arnold Ari Palacios, and the Honorable David M. Apateng, I thank you once again for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm honored to introduce the administration's nominee, Mr. Marvin I. De Longuerero, the Governor and Lieutenant Governor's nominee for the Marianas Visitors Authority Board of Directors. With his impressive qualifications, unwavering dedication, and passion to serving the Commonwealth, Mr. De Longuerero is an ideal candidate for this role. We believe, therefore, that Mr. De Longuerero possesses the skills and expertise necessary to make a significant impact in this position as a member of the Marianas Visitors Authority. His desire to create a better future for the Marianas is truly inspiring, and we are confident that he would carry out the responsibility with the utmost professionalism. Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang places their full trust and confidence on Mr. Lilonguero if confirmed as a member of the Marianas Visitors Board of Authority. He knows he stands ready to answer your questions and share his future proposals to implement whatever tourism activity that would further enhance the Commonwealth. We kindly ask for your prompt approval of Mr. Lilonguero's nomination. Thank you, Jesus Moses and Galiso, again for the opportunity to introduce Mr. Guerrero to this August body. And just for your information, I am sure that Mr. Guerrero Christmas album is forthcoming too. So be aware of that. Donation is only $25. Good luck, Mr. Guerrero.
Thank you, Mr. Babalta. I would also like to recognize a member of the legislature from the House of Representatives, Congressman Malcolm Omar. He is present in the chamber in support of Mr. Marvin Eagle. At this time, we will move forward with the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. And I now invite those who wish to make public comments to please join us in the chamber where the microphone is situated at. And if you will be providing public comments, I ask that you please state your name for the record and the entity you represent. And pursuant to our rules, you have 5 minutes to complete your statement. The floor is now open.
Sorry. Good morning, Madam Chair, honorable members of this committee, legal counsel, and staff. Thank you very much allowing us, public, to be here on behalf of Mr. Marvin Iguel de Longuerero. Being a member of the Tanopa community, I have known Marvin since birth to date. Marvin has always been a very respectful and concerned citizen in the village. He has pursued his dream, get educated, and this is where he stands right now. He is the manager of the Bank Pacific. Holding that position, it's not just somebody can just walk in and take over. He has done a great deal of good deeds for the community at large. Not only that he served the community as a manager in the bank, he served the community for needs that are requested through him. I strongly believe that with his educational credential, his lifetime experiences in the Marianas, not just Saipan alone, and of course abroad, other places, that has built his individual credential and most fitting for this position as a member of the Marianas Visitors Bureau Board. I am not going to speak much about his educational background because his position at this moment can really speak for itself. But let me indulge a little in the community aspect of Mr. Guerrero's involvement. As a young man, he became one of the top artists, musical artists in the Marianas. He has helped in many health activities, fundraising for many members of our community. With his background, educational background, and his community involvement, I believe that he can be most fitting as a member of the board. He's an artist, he's a creator, and his background as an artist is most fitting for tourism businesses. I know that Mr. Marvin can create a lot of programs that will continue to entice visitors, not just tourism, but even those that are coming back just to visit the Sinamay. And with that, I'd like to ask the most favorable support by the committee in confirming Mr. Marvin Igo Guerrero to become member of the Marianas Visitors Board. Dongklu na si Zeus Maosi, Jan Giliso. Have a nice day.
Jesus Masi.
Si Leslie, si Juan I Tenorio. The I Tiigwa Independent, just kidding. And good morning.
Thank you, former Congressman Juan I. Tenorio. The floor is still open.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of this committee. My name is Felix Nogis. I'm here on behalf of Carolinian Affairs and also the Indigenous Affairs Office. I'm sorry the Director for Indigenous Affairs is not able to be present today. So I'm here representing both offices. As you look at the resume of the nominee, I just want to highlight his educational background. He got his BS in business administration through Argosy University. Also, he has attained his MBA, Master's in Business Administration through the same university. Also, you look at his resume, he had quite a stint with Department of Labor, and then he served mostly in the financial institution throughout his career. So with that, I think Mr. Guerrero will be an asset to MVA, given his accounting background, and will be beneficial to the CNMI. So I kindly ask this committee to support his nomination, and hopefully he'll be contributing to our community as a whole. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In closing, I just want to mention, Madam Chair, I'm glad there's a male nominee with outstanding credential. Lately, we've been seeing ladies with outstanding credentials here. So I'm glad that Mr. Iguel has such excellent background, and we're here to support him. Thank you.
Jesus Moses and Hiliso, Senior Nogis. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with women, qualified women being. Thank you. The floor is still open.
My name is Judy Torres. Currently, I'm the acting managing director of Marianas Visitors Authority. Hafade Tirawami, good morning, Chairwoman Babauta, committee members, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Marianas Visitors Authority and our Board of Directors, it is a pleasure to convey to you our support for the appointment of Marvin De Leon Guerrero as member of the MVA Board of Directors representing Saipan. We welcome the opportunity to Mr. De Leon Guerrero's career experience in management and administration being added to MVA leadership as a member of our board. Given his extensive background in the banking industry, we believe he will serve with both integrity and keen eye on the bottom line, which, as we all know, is now as deep as we would like it to be, but we'll always have and will continue to work within our means. If he has some special insight on how to increase our monetary assets, we welcome that too. In addition, we anticipate that Mr. De Leon Guerrero will lend a unique cultural perspective on the policy direction of the MVA, both as a Chamorro translator and performing artist. We also believe his membership in both Saipan Chamber of Commerce and Rotary Club of Saipan is a sign of his willingness to work across all sectors: business, government, nonprofit, and community. Based on our latest stats in September, the Marianas has recovered only 46% of visitor arrivals compared to before the pandemic. As a point of comparison, the United Nations World Tourism Organization predicts an average of 80 to 95% recovery of travel worldwide this year. The lack of a third source market, the strong dollar, the weak won, and yen are all working against us. We respectfully request your favorable action on the appointment of Mr. De Leon Guerrero, as we can meet these challenges with the guidance of him and the rest of our board. Sizuos Maasi Olomoy, and thank you.
Jesus Masi, Senora Torres. The floor is still open.
Good morning, Chair Babauta and members of this committee. For the record, my name is Malcolm Omar. I'm a representative with the House of Representatives representing Precinct 4. I come before you guys in support of the governor's nominee, Marvin De Leon Guerrero, for the MVA Board of Directors. I've known Marvin also most of my life, and he is an upstanding member of not only our community in Precinct 4, but also for the whole Marianas. He's represented the Marianas as a goodwill ambassador in off-island international entities as a performing artist and visual artist also. And with, like Ms. Torres said, the cultural aspect of his nomination, Marvin is also from, you should say, both sides of our Falosh community, both from the southern and northern side. And he's very much endowed in the cultures, and as well as our indigenous cultures, Falosh and Chamorro. Again, I asked for the committee's favorable confirmation or vetting of this candidate, and I stand for his in support for his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Omar. The floor is still open for individuals who wish to make public comments. If there are none, we will close the public comments portion at this time, and we will reopen it back in the afternoon after lunch when we hear the other two nominees scheduled to appear before the committee today. For the record, the committee has received a letter of support from Ms. Christine Fitio, and there were no letters in opposition of the nomination of Mr. De Leon Guerrero to the MBA board. Today, we will evaluate the nominee from the executive branch, Mr. Marvin Igual de Leon Guerrero. And these nominations require the consent of the Senate, a procedure unique to the Senate. This is part of our democratic process pursuant to the CNMI Constitution and the laws to vet the nomination beyond his academic and professional standing. And that is why we are here today. I now invite Mr. De Leon Guerrero to please stand and raise your right hand, and Mr. Marianas will administer the oath to you.
Marvin Igor de Leon Guerrero, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I will open the floor to the nominee. If you would like to make any opening remarks, you may do so at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. Hafidez and Tiro, again, Madam Chair and members of the Senate. I also want to take this time to acknowledge and thank, family members who are here in support of my nomination. So let me get right to my brief remarks that I prepared here. So again, thank you for hearing me out. Hafide Zantiro. I am honored and humbled to accept the nomination of the position of board member for the Marianas Visitors Authority, or MVA. I would like to thank the Honorable Governor Arnold Palacios, Lieutenant Governor David Apatang, for their confidence in me and for giving me this opportunity to serve. I would also like to thank this august body for affording me this opportunity to share a little bit about myself and for my desire and willingness to help MVA move forward and succeed in its mission and goals of promoting and marketing the CNMI as a premier travel destination within our region. Again, I am Marvin Igor de Leon Guerrero. I am one of 6 loving children of the late Magdalena Igor de Leon Guerrero and the late Joaquin Augusto de Leon Guerrero. I am happily married to a beautiful Chamorro lady who goes by the name of Gina Ann Tulahi de Leon Guerrero. Gina is the daughter of Maria Lizama Tulahi and the late Vicente Kamatsu Tulahi. She and I are proud parents of 7 amazing children and 5 agugat grandchildren, sometimes, yeah. Okay, I currently work for Bank Pacific, a federally insured financial institution headquartered in Guam. I serve as Assistant Vice President and Branch Manager for our Saipan office. At Bank Pacific, I basically oversee the daily operations and management functions of the branch, which is located adjacent to Cristo Rite Church on Beach Road, Garpan. I can say we at Saipan Branch, we always feel blessed being that we're situated right next to the church. Okay. Outside of the bank, I am an avid live musical entertainer and recording artist and producer for MG Music Productions. Aside from musical entertainment and recording, I am also a novice wildlife and nature photographer. In addition, I do English to Chamorro translation work for CCJK Technologies. This is a web-based translation service provider. Furthermore, I am a member of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce and have been a member for 6 years now. I'm also a member of the Rotary Club of Saipan and have served as a general member for 4 years to date. Being of Chamorro and Rafalawas descent, I'm always passionate about the preservation and promotion of our local culture and traditions through music and the arts. As some of you may know or have seen, I have performed at numerous local events, such as the annual Flame Tree Festival, Taste of Marianas, Christmas in the Marianas, the Tinian Hot Pepper Festival, Tinian Fiestas, and Rhoda Fiestas as well. In addition, on a couple of occasions, I have traveled to the mainland and performed at the annual Chamorro Cultural Festival in San Diego, California, and did a couple of stints, did a couple of concert tours to Las Vegas, Arizona, San Francisco, and Kent, Washington. Music aside, I wanted to share in retrospect an experience I had while going through high school. MVA, well, formerly MVB for Marianas Visitors Bureau at the time, selected me amongst a pool of some 50 students to represent Saipan through a cultural exchange program trip to Okinawa, Japan. Um, and the goal was to experience and learn for us students to experience and learn about the Japanese culture and ways the island nation was promoting its own tourism at the time. Now, upon my return from that trip, I was asked to provide a travel report detailing what I had learned from that trip and the entire experience. And I did so without hesitation and with no hesitation. My apologies. Now, even at a young age, that trip, that experience gave me a different perspective in as far as the idea of capitalizing on cultural values, traditions, and historic significance as a way to drive an island nation's tourism economy. Music, the arts, and culture have always been a big part of me, and of my aspiration to share and showcase my talent and skills with our island communities and those abroad. Music, the arts, and our island culture and traditions will continue to inspire me for as long as I live, and I am elated to perpetuate inspiration and aspirations as I embark on this opportunity to serve on the MVA board. I am excited about the prospect of working with such a talented and dedicated group of individuals at MVA. I believe that together we can achieve great things and make a real difference in the lives of those we serve. Visiting tourists, that includes visiting tourists and our local communities alike. I also believe that it is high time that the board, the agency, and this administration work collaboratively and proactively towards transforming tourism into a more sustainable, resilient economic driver. As Mr. Chris Concepcion had mentioned in a couple of op-eds that I'd read in the paper, he was quoted as saying, tourism is everybody's business, and it very well should be. As we all know, tourism is a significant source of revenue for island nation, for the Marianas. It has since been the lifeblood of the cinema economy. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has had severe impact on our tourism industry, and we're now struggling to recover. Furthering this hurdle entails the potential delays in mitigating or improving the current state of our island's main infrastructure, particularly our roads and accesses to major tourist sites. Conversely, though, I believe there are ways that we can boost our tourism economy. But one way is to diversify our tourism products by expanding our tourism industry by means of exploring and offering non-traditional alternatives, such as wildlife tourism, ecotourism, cultural tourism, and adventure tourism. The list is not all inclusive. Such non-traditional approaches to enhance tourism will undoubtedly involve intense marketing research and working closely with key governmental stakeholders, such as the Department of Lands and Natural Resources, Division of Customs and Quarantine, Division of Fish and Wildlife, Coastal Resource Management Office, Department of Public Lands, Division of Parks and Recreation, the Historical Preservation Office, Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, and other related departmental subsidiary agencies. And let us not forget the inclusion of the private business sector, as it has since been a key economic component as well. As board member, I will work diligently with fellow colleagues to ensure that MVA remains at the forefront of tourism. I will strive to promote innovation, collaboration, and excellence in all that the board does, and I will devote my more than 25 years of experience in live musical entertainment, live cultural performances, musical recording, wildlife and nature photography, Chamorro translation, and my experience in the banking industry in hopes of inciting new ideas for the enhancement and promotion of tourism in the Marianas and abroad. I look forward to the opportunity to meet with fellow colleagues, if confirmed, to discuss my vision and insights for the future of MVA. Thank you again, Sujus Maasi and Kiliso, for your confidence in me, and I look forward to serving with you.
Sizus Mose, Senor De Leon Guerrero. At this time, we will begin the question and answer portion. And while my colleagues get ready for their turn, I can begin. I caught some important statements you made during your opening remarks, and I appreciate them. One of them was sharing of your experience in Okinawa. You were at a young age, I presume, at that time.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
And I appreciate sharing your experience in the exposure of the Okinawan culture, but also that you were an ambassador at that time to our culture. So I think that plays a significant role, especially with Marianas Visitors Authority, or formerly Marianas Visitors Bureau. They're interchangeable, by the way. For those of us who have been in government a long time, sometimes we could say MBA or MBB. They're interchangeable. You are a musical artist, and I think your experiences in music in particular, producing and performing, is a perfect platform, because regardless of the diversity and the differences in our culture, music is one aspect of culture that we can all communicate in. We can all feel music. So I think that's a perfect platform, and I think that is an added value to your nomination. I also think your experiences in the banking industry is an added value, in that you, as the branch manager and assistant vice president, have to work across, all banking is as diverse as it could be. You deal with investors from different countries, individuals from different countries, and different needs. So I think that is also an added value. Back in, I believe, May, let me get the dates correctly. Yes. Back in May of 2022, MVA attended what we call in the military MWR, I forgot the acronym, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, MWR. Fair show at Anderson Air Force Base, and we have not heard anything back as far as feedback from that. But I would like to ask you, should you be confirmed, to please encourage members of the board and MVA to pursue that avenue, because that is an untouched market right there. We focus on Asia, and of course, they bring in millions of dollars and help our local economy and help our government in terms of revenue. But that is basically an untouched market. And having over 20 years of experience being a military dependent, they like to travel. We like to travel. So that is something that I'd like to see MBA pursue in the very near future. They already have got their footing in there. And I have examined your resume, and I'm appreciative of your active membership in the Rotary Club and the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, because these two organizations, as well as the Hotel Association of the NMI, HANMI for short, have solicited support from local leaders to pursue the China market. China market at this time is what we've been told the largest market that we could bring revenue from. But the governor's office, the central government, has swayed away from that for national security reasons, I could say. Can you lend your thoughts on the pros and cons of marketing in China by MBA?
Sure. Thanks, Madam Chair. My thoughts on that point, given the geopolitical situation that's happening right now with China, uh, and just in my opinion, I believe that that is sort of what the governor is being apprehensive about, being sensitive about the geopolitical aspect of things. Uh, and as far as driving the economy, yes, the China market is a big market, but given the geopolitical issue at hand, it may be time for us to explore other markets. I know MVA has been going on trips to expos in Japan. There was one that was recently conducted, the JATA Tourism Expo, and my thoughts on that is that's a good start, but we need more of that. We need more trips to not just Japan. There's Taiwan and other regions that are close to the Marianas, and not uh, just focus on China, or not just say China is our only hope. No, there are other ways, other means. I'm sure that the board can ponder and perhaps come up with solutions to attract other markets other than China.
Thank you. And we agree with you. Um, I'm glad you mentioned the JATA trip to Japan recently, because the two members of this committee were present at that meeting, and I'm sure they will be sharing their experiences with you and some of the things they saw that probably could be improved. And I'll leave that up to them. But there's one other thing that I'm concerned about, is that the Saipan mayor's office, often we read in the papers, the mayor travels for these sister city relationships, and that's part of promotion, right? Exposing our culture to Japan, and also they bring in exchange students that get to be housed in local homes. I've been a sponsor previously. But if you should be confirmed, I hope that you can convince the Marianas Visitors Authority and other board members to work with the Saipan Mayor's office and mayor's offices from the other municipalities to, produce something of these relationships. Often times we find ourselves looking from the outside to the executive branch and things they're doing in the departments, and we see a disconnect in many of the departments. And this is one of them that I thought of before we came into this hearing, is that I'm not sure that the MBA works with the municipal mayor's offices, including Tinian and Rhoda, to expound on that program of the sister city relationship with Japan, or any other country for that matter. We shouldn't just limit ourselves to Japan. So that's one recommendation I have. We realize your limitations in that you have not attended any of the MBA board meetings yet. So our questions are very limited as well, but we do make recommendations based on what we see here at the legislature. I also want to inform you that our doors are always open. We have the chair of economic development here in this committee, Senator Magofnia, and we're always looking for ways to help, you know, um, do our part here at the legislature. And whether it's for funding requests, we realize that we are limited in financial resources, but we do have and we do speak with investors who come here and visit us, so we have some to offer in terms of recommendation on that. One thing that was mentioned to me before coming into this meeting is that Oprah Winfrey, do you know her? Of her? Oprah Winfrey, believe it or not, paid a visit to Palau These are mega stars. If Palau can do it, why can't we? And so we need to consistently ask ourselves, what is it that we need to do? And think out of the box to invite or to promote ourselves in that level. Those are a couple of things I have here. I will yield at this time to other members who may have questions or follow-up questions to my suggestions. So I will recognize Senator Donald Magnolia at this time.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. De Leon Guerrero. Congratulations on your nomination, and thank you for accepting the nomination. Just listening to your statement, you picked up on several points that I wanted to expound on, but and this mostly revolves around the cultural aspect and trying to capitalize on that, which I feel is lacking within the MVA, in my honest opinion. Like the chair has mentioned, I was given the opportunity to travel with MVA to Jatta, and I think that that's one of the things that kind of lacked. I mean, we did have a demonstration on the Moir, on the making of the Moir, but there are other aspects of our culture that I feel wasn't represented well, like maybe the traditions and maybe the food or some events that are being held in the Sinamai that focuses on our culture. And so that's one thing that I hope, if confirmed, that you can push more of. Prior to DFS opening up a section within their building that focuses on the Marianas experience, there really wasn't much out there for tourists to kind of know more of our culture or experience the culture. And I think that's one step towards that. And so I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to see that section of DFS. But it's an effort in trying to move more towards that that aspect of marketing. And so if I can ask you, what, in your opinion, would you think is the Sinamai's competitive advantage against all the other destinations that are promoting their beaches and activities? What do you think makes the Sinamai stand out?
Thank you, Senator. To even come close to attaining a competitive advantage, the CNMI needs to find ways to differentiate itself. And as far as tourism, differentiation is a key aspect in any business, right? So we're doing a similar tourism activity as what Guam is doing. Only Guam per capita, they're a bigger island. So if one may suggest, how come Guam's economy is much healthier than CNMI? Well, there are a bigger population, obviously. Now, going back to, I'm sorry, Senator, can you rephrase your question again? I'm sorry.
Seeing as how we're competing with other destinations, and like you said, Guam,
so
what sets us apart?
Okay, yeah. So differentiation, yeah, we need to find. And again, if approved, I'm willing to work with, fellow colleagues in thinking of ways to differentiate CNMI tourism from Guam tourism. We're basically doing the same thing. We have, water activities out there, hiking and whatnot. But in order to achieve or, to gain a competitive advantage, we need to first think of ways to differentiate ourselves from, other, markets or other regions, to include Guam. Those are my thoughts, Senator. I hope I made sense.
So if I understand that the Sinamai still hasn't found that. Is that what I'm getting from your response?
Correct. And if I may add, and I'm sure, a lot of us in this room And when you go to the hotels, and please don't quote me on this, and I'm not saying other cultural performances are, should not be, shown or promoted. But why aren't we promoting our very own culture? The Falawash dances, some stick dances at every single hotel. Why? I believe if we can achieve that, and again, not to dissuade, not to speak, otherwise of other cultural performers or performances for that matter.
I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. That's something that I've strongly tried to convey, to move away from the Tahitian dancers or the hula dancers, and why aren't we promoting more of the Carolinian or the Chamorro performance,
Yeah.
whether it be song or storytelling
Yeah.
or dance. And there are several things that I can think of right now that sets us apart, and that's that we're a chain of islands as opposed to Guam, which is just this one economy, one territory. And so I don't know to what extent has MVA looked at the promotion of the Northern Islands as ecotourism, or even just the other two sister islands, Rhoda and Tinian, and what differentiates Guam is that us from Guam is that we have the different way of life in a sense between the three islands alone, but also what can they explore in the Northern Islands, right? That's one thing that MVA could further look into. One thing that I also did not or I guess I don't really see more of, and even if I were to do a simple Google search as to things to do in the Marianas, I think there needs to be a further, maybe market more the different activities that are going on throughout the year so that people can time their vacation to coincide with these events. And so that could also bring in tourists on certain parts of the year where we may see a slow in visitor arrivals, right? So that's one recommendation that I wanted to bring out. Also, you come from a world of finance, and so the word, the acronym ROI is something that I hope that you can also bring into the MVA in terms of how much are we spending in particular markets, and what is our return on those markets, and if it's something that should be pursued, or how can we pivot into something that's more inclusive or more maybe that would be more attractive. In the past 3 months, 3 months, including what's going to happen next week, is that MVA has gone to Singapore, they've done JADA, and then now there's this dive show in New Orleans, right? Like, for example, New Orleans, I'm not sure to what extent this dive expo is going to bring in divers, but when you talk about New Orleans, right, the closest diving spot is where? The Caribbean. And so is that a right market to look into, to bring them all the way across the Pacific to dive in? That's some of the things that I guess the board has to consider in looking at what markets may or may not work. And so I hope that we invest in the right destination, or at least put more focus on where we're currently in, instead of trying to branch out everywhere and then not following through with all these different markets. Another thing you mentioned in your statement is that you're a nature photographer. There are several undiscovered sites. I think that's something that the CNMI can also capitalize on. Yesterday, we had the hearing for one of the nominee for CETA. And so, one of the focus that we brought up was how do we market the CNMI to investors even? And so I think this is where the collaboration needs to come into play with MVA and CETA and CPA, and try to see whose role would it be to market the CNMI also as a place for investors to come in and do business here. And so, back to competitive advantage, I hope that while Rhoda, Tinian, and Saipan each have their representatives within the board, I think it should also be something to note that try to see, in addition to the CNMI, identifying what the competitive advantage of the CNMI is, maybe also looking at the different islands and what they bring to the table that Saipan doesn't, what Tinian brings to the table that Rhoda and Tinian doesn't, and so on and so forth. And so, you're a breath of fresh air in the sense that you come from this background of performance and culture and history. And so I hope that's something that that MVA can also focus more on, and that you're there to help with that. And then one more thing that I wanted to bring up is in the past hearings, and this was prior to the current director coming in, we hear a lot of the term exposure value. And so, yeah, we can say there's 8 million in exposure values or whatever that figure is, but how do you translate that into maybe monetary value? And so I hope that's something that you can try to find a formula to translate that, and to see if that's something that maybe can be changed or reflected better. And then also one last thing before I pass it on to the next members, there's this challenge with the hotel occupancy tax and with Airbnbs. I'm not sure if MVA is working closely with the Department of Finance, but I know a portion of the hot tax goes to the enforcement of collecting taxes or collecting HOTs from the Airbnb operators. And so whether it's an enforcement issue or a change in statute, I think that's something that needs to be also looked into. I'm not sure how much of an effort Rev Tax is putting on collecting the hotel occupancy tax, or making sure that these Airbnb operators are paying into the tax. And to add on to the hotel occupancy tax, I know that all three mayors are given a portion of that tax, and I hope that further scrutiny is done on how these hot monies are spent, as opposed to MBA just throwing the money at the events. It's one thing to provide financial support to the events, but you got to ask yourself is, are these events attracting the people we want to bring in, right? It's great for the community. It provides some, businesses to our local vendors, but also are we marketing these events enough to attract outside visitors? So I hope that's something that we can also look into. And so again, thank you for accepting the nomination, and I wish you the best of luck if confirmed, as you tackle on these additional responsibilities, in addition to all the other organizations that you're part of. Thank you.
I appreciate you,
I
Mr.
yield at
Senator.
this time.
Thank you, Senator Mangonia. Do you have any comments with respect to Mr. DeLongro? Do you have any comments with respect to what Senator Donald has said? Was there anything in your mind that you'd like to share with us?
I was only going to say that he had already pointed it out earlier when he brought up ROI. He had mentioned, Senator had mentioned, how we're just spending funds for different activities, different intent, different goals, different missions. But what are the chances of, let's say, if we focus efforts, advertising efforts, let's say in Taiwan, or one good example that Senator brought up was that scuba dive in New Orleans, one prime example. What's the likelihood of anyone from New Orleans visiting our islands to scuba dive when the closest possible point is the Caribbeans, right? So your point's well taken, Mr. Senator, regarding ROI, return on investment. If we spend money, if we focus resources, appropriate funds, or resources to a particular activity, in hopes of promoting tourism, what are we going to get back in the long run? Are we going to be investing? Are we going to be continuing to support and waste funds on uncertainties rather than making sure that we do our due diligence in conducting marketing research studies to be sure that a particular market is what the CNMI should be spending their dollars on, that, thus getting return on investment.
Thank you for that. I now recognize Senator Corina Magovnia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Leon Guerrero, and to your family who are here to provide support on your nomination. Thank you for accepting the nomination. As Senator Donald has mentioned, you are a breath of fresh air, bringing in new perspective to the board should you be confirmed. I've been listening to everything that you've been saying, and it sounds like one of the key things that you reiterate a few times was our culture and heritage. And I think we all know, everyone in here knows that you talked about differentiation, right? And in every place that you visit, most tourists visit places to experience the food and the culture. And that is definitely one thing that I feel personally we are lacking here in the Marianas. We don't showcase enough of our local talents, our local food. As you mentioned, you go to any hotel for brunch, for dinner, right? And I personally have never seen any local fruits being served at any of these hotels. Yes, we have the roasted pig, but that's kind of pretty common everywhere. But maybe something special, right, that only the locals can provide. So that is definitely something that needs to be discussed with a lot of our hotels. Maybe MVA could collaborate with the hotels to see how we can start promoting our culture and our food at the hotels, because that is why most tourists come to experience. Definitely, after there, we have the water activities just like everybody else that are our competitors. We do live in a remote place surrounded by water, as do Guam, Hawaii, Micronesia, and everywhere else near around us. So it is so key and important that we stand out in our own ways. And one of the unique things about the Marianas, not just that we are a key, chain of islands, but we have two different cultures, right, cohabitating on these islands. And so that is definitely something unique that we can showcase. And you spoke of the JATA Expo in Japan just, over a week ago. And yes, Senator Donald and I were fortunate enough to be invited to travel with MVA. I did see the key differences between Guam and Saipan. Guam, I feel like they spent a little bit extra time with the design and the way they marketed their booth, because from a distance, from outside the building where Guam was, their booth was, like we literally could see the sign Guam in bright colors. Okay, like you didn't even have to look hard to identify Guam. Now you go to the building that the CNMI was in, and we saw Marianication, which is great, right? But for many people, especially foreigners who are not familiar with the Marianas, like what is Marianication and how do we stand out from Guam? You mention Guam anywhere, and I can guarantee you almost 99% of the people know where Guam is, right, is located. They may not know its physical location or who the people are, but you mention Guam, and Guam is a familiar word that almost anybody you ask during your travel will acknowledge. So that is definitely something that we need to work on. And it sounds like, based on what you said, MVA is probably still needing to figure out what that is and how can we differentiate and make ourselves stand out from our neighbors. Senator Selena had mentioned about Oprah visiting Palau. There are many other megastars that have visited Palau, to include Bill Gates and other big stars. I was sharing with them that during a visit in California earlier this year, I was in the car driving on the freeway to a location, and you would not believe that on the freeway far away in a distance I see this huge billboard with nothing but clear blue, beautiful turquoise water that says come visit Palau. And I was just astonished, like, did I just see the word Palau in Hollywood, California? Like, how is that possible? What are they doing differently that we're not? And if they can do it, why not us, right? We offer the same water, if not, of course, they probably have other amenities that they provide, but we really live in the same region with the same water. So it's all about trying to identify who we are as a destination and how can we bring those people here. Now, that all being said, I noticed on your resume, which is quite impressive, that you talked about one of the experience that you talked about is expanding on accounts and establishing brand profile. And what a perfect fitting that was when I saw that you were being nominated for the board. Because how can MVA I feel like we need to rebrand ourselves. And since your nomination letter, which was back in August, have you had some time to kind of ponder on that and maybe ask yourselves, what can we do differently? If should you be confirmed, what can you do differently to bring to the table and help MVA, move forward from where we are now? How can you help make the improvements?
Two key things come to mind, Madam Senator. Again, I'll say it again: differentiation and rebranding. I am. I can't wait to meet with, if confirmed. I can't. I can't wait to meet with the incumbent board members to see what's on the table. I know what I'm going to bring to the table. I just need to see what the current state of things, current state of matter at MVA. But in short, those are the two key things that come to mind related to your question, Madam Senator, is differentiation and rebranding.
So could you just expand a little bit on that, because you talked about your experience in at the bank, right? Expanding on accounts and establishing uh, branding profile. Are you comfortable sharing with us today what you have in mind to present to the board should you get confirmed?
Maybe not today, but if I may comment on something. I remember, and I'm sure some of us in here remember the Sai Panda. I don't know if that's still a thing. No, right? Yeah. We need to rebrand.
Yes, and I absolutely agree with you. I think one of the key things too that I observed while in Japan, in differentiating themselves, Guam at least, right, was they had representation from their culture, Chamorro culture, right? Um, they may have used young Japanese little girls dancing the Chamorro dances, right? However, I was so surprised to see them actually singing the songs in Chamorro and dancing, the Chamorro dances. And that was definitely something that was lacking at our booth. Yes, we did have displays of our mar and the weaving, which was great because that's one of the ways to showcase, right, our talents and the kind of culture that we have. But we were definitely lacking other displays. Uh, Guam clearly had displays of the lattice stone, the kind of art that their artists doing Guam, and I feel like that was one of the things that was missing. Definitely, like I would recommend, and then in the next expos that we attend, that maybe we should bring musicians from our islands and have them sing in our language, right? Both Chamorro and Carolinians, right? And have our dancers too dance. Just it doesn't have to be an entourage of people, maybe 2 to 4 dancers would suffice, but definitely represent both cultures so that the tourists who are considering the Marianas as a destination for them can expect what to see when they come to our beautiful islands. Um, Also, there were some photo displays of our islands, but a lot of it was geared to like the ocean, and we really need to. Yes, it's a great pitch, right? One of the ways to get people here is our beaches, but so do many other islands surrounding us. So we really need to find other ways to market. Uh, you talked about your experience in high school where you had traveled to Japan as an ambassador. Maybe that is something that MVA could also consider and sponsor not just Japan, but other countries to come and experience and explore our islands. With students comes their parents and families. So that is definitely one way to bring additional tourists to our islands, right? By having programs like that. You talked about on your resume, you have financial reporting. Can you just elaborate a little bit about your experience in financial reporting?
Um, okay, hang on. Excuse me, please. Okay, so my experience with financial reporting, basically, it's doing account analysis, um, balance sheets, cash flows. I do review these, financial documents, at the bank when commercial loan customers come in to apply for a loan. I'm exposed to that. So from time to time, I would share and I would report. I would need to provide a reporting of all that analysis to our head office for further review. Yeah.
Okay, so and the reason why I ask about that is because I just wanted to clarify, uh, you know, the area in financial reporting that you are experienced in. I guess where I was going with that was whether or not you have experience in reviewing financial statements such
Ye-
as so
yes.
cash flow, balance sheet,
Yes.
income statement, stuff like
Yes.
that, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely something I don't know if anyone is doing it at MVA at this time. Maybe I'm sure they have an accountant, right? But do any of the management level or even the board members take a look at those financial statements and truly understand, what
What the
the
numbers mean.
what the numbers mean, what can they do with those numbers, and where they can better spend those monies, right? I think Senator Donald had also talked about the dive expo in Louisiana. I'm not against MVA taking trips to explore other areas, but with the limited financial resources that we have, we really need to be smart and strategic about how we go about spending that money and the ROI. It's always about that,
Mhm.
right? And so that was one of the reasons why I asked about your financial reporting experience. Uh, Let me see. Definitely start incorporating more of our culture and food, right? So music, art, whether it's painting or crafts, right? Definitely something that MVA should start collaborating with all our local artists to see how we can better brand our islands and not just brand them, but also sell them. Um, so I guess my last question for this round is, should you be confirmed, what are your priorities and goals as a board member at MVA? I know you touched on a couple of things as the branding and differentiating. Are there any other priorities that you would like to accomplish at MVA should you be confirmed?
I'd be interested to look at the books, the financials, before even venturing into planning and thinking of what marketing activity should be, or marketing or promotional activity should be carried out. Uh, in my opinion, it's important to to look at the financials and see, because the financials would show otherwise if we're making money or not. And if we are, a section in sections in the financials would indicate which operational activity or whatever marketing activity, promotion activity is making money or is not making money. So uh, again, I can't wait to, if confirmed, I can't wait to sit with my colleagues and look at the books, review the books, because that's a crucial part in in any business, right? Before you start uh, doing any sort of whatever marketing projects or promotional activities, you need to find out if you have even have the money or even have the means and the resources to carry those activities out. Um, those are my thoughts. I hope it made sense, Madam Senator.
Thank you so much for your answers, Mr. John Guerrero. I you for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia. I just have a couple of follow-up. We keep talking about ROI. Are you familiar with the deer meat for dinner?
Yes,
That
I've heard.
transpired.
Yeah, I've heard and show. Yeah, I
Uh,
saw videos of it.
Records reflect MBA spent 59,000 on that trip. At least that's what we're being told. We suspect it was higher because of other intangible, unmonetary expenses, um, and and we had called MVA in at the time, and were asking about this program that they implemented with Mr. Arrington of Deer Meat for Dinner, and we wanted to know what was our tangible benefit from that. And that's why you hear exposure value, because they informed us that you know it generated 2.2 million exposure value, meaning 2.2 million. At least we think it means that 2.2 million people viewed it. And we continue to ask to this day, how many of those 2.2 million viewers actually came to Saipan as a result? Exposure value does not equate dollar value, and it never will. Um, we're not our comments are not in any way reflective of any of the MVA staff or board, but these are just issues we bring up from our perspective, and none of our comments are reflective of any of the MBA staff or management. But we bring up these problems, challenges, if you'd like, um, and ideas that we may have to offer. But along with the problems that we bring up, we also offer solutions that hopefully they bring back, to their departments and try to implement it. Your nomination comes at a very turbulent financial crisis in the government. So, you know, we we ask, should you be confirmed, that you be resourceful, and as well as encourage other board members to be resourceful, to think of other solutions to the problems we face, basically. And you were nominated, obviously, because of your skills, your education, and the talents you may bring, and to assist our government. So I think your nomination comes at a very good time. Part of the one of the challenges we see, particularly with MBA, is one, they market for tourism, right? And I've met with some of the management team and say, why don't you include the investment portion of that? And we get it. Their mission is to promote tourism. but they are the marketing ambassadors of our government. You know, they travel to places to try and market. It only makes sense to be resourceful and include somebody from CEDA to market our investment plans here. And I encourage you, should you be confirmed, to also work with CEDA as well as the municipal governments on trying to implement or come up with something, a plan to invite not only investors but visitors in you know in the same breath, if you would. Part of what I see also is that MVA has activities throughout the year to accommodate different tourism markets, right? We have their athletes that come here. We have, just regular tourists who want to come and experience a different culture than their own. And that's fine. But I think because of the limited financial resources that MVA has, I think we need to sit down with them and maybe bring it down a notch, maybe not, because what we're seeing is that these activities are not as focused, not as strategic as they intended to be. So I don't know if scaling down activities throughout the year would help, but we need to put our heads together. We don't have all the solutions, but we'd like to work with other departments to come up with solutions to help them from our side of the hallway, if you would. That's all I have for today. Are there any other members who I recognize now? Senator Donald Manglonia for the second round.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry, all of these things are coming into my mind. My undergraduate's in marketing, and so when I see a lot of these things, it just there's a lot of things that we can do differently, and I hope that once you get in there, that there are certain if you can just go back and look at some of the stuff that, whether it be the previous executive director or previous board members have planned out, and see if that's something that should be continued or revisited. Just looking at the goals that MVA has and some of the things that are listed, that is that by 2031, the CNMI will be offering Northern Islands travel and excursion opportunities, enhance tourist and historical sites, honor the heritage of Chamorro and Carolinian people. So these are stuff that I think we're still behind on, and we're almost approaching the halfway mark of this, what seems to be a 10-year goal. And so, going back again to trying to market some of our sites, the pandemic would have been a great opportunity for the CNMI to enhance a lot of the destinations, but if you look at some of them, it hasn't changed. Rhoda before was known to be this premier wedding destination because we have this huge landmark, right? The wedding cake, and so there are several sites where you can get married and have the wedding cake as your background. That's just one of them. But when you have a military buildup on Guam that's on the rise, right? You're expecting many families to move to Guam, and so are we at that point where we're ready to market to that new market, the military market on Guam? I don't think so. And so this is where I think also the MVA board should meet with CPA. Right now, the challenge is trying to get to the other islands in terms of air transportation. Right now, just from here to Rota is 330. Rota to Guam is 390. And so that's another challenge in and of itself. And I'm hopeful that the new chair, Mr. Zuzu, can look into to see how we can reduce the cost of traveling to the other islands. And that's something that with MVA's collaboration, they can work on doing some kind of package or stuff like that. And so I hope that as you revisit this strategic plan, rebranding, like you said, is one of them. And I really hate to compare ourselves to Guam, I mean, but we share a lot of the same culture, right, and history. And so even just like their rebranding alone, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it's like a crescent. There's 3 crescents, and each one has a meaning to it. And so I had to turn my face when you brought up Saipanda, because I think that that's another thing. It's one thing that we noticed in Jatha, where there was a lot of these what do you call them, mascots, and so I think that we can learn a lot from that. I think maybe that's what attracts the Japanese market, but maybe not a panda for the cinema or Saipan. But I hope that now there's a new group of board members. We have a new managing director, so I hope that in the next few months the board can present to the legislature and the public this new strategic plan and what your vision as board members are for MVA as well as the Commonwealth. So I hope that you can revisit the strategic plan and update it and focus, maybe switch focus if it's currently not working. And so I hope to see that coming out of MVA, and that's all I have. And so thank you again, and I wish you the best of luck. I yield at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mingdonia. If you should be confirmed, if you find it difficult to, meet with other departments or agencies, let us know. This is one area they can never avoid. Each chairperson has the inherent authority to call them in for discussions. I do want to appreciate you for making the time to come out here. Not only was it mandatory for you, but we do appreciate dialoguing and having conversations with you. Feel free to reach out to any of the members if you have any other suggestions. And we have no further questions for you at this time. You are hereby dismissed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It is now 11:58 a.m. and this hearing is hereby in recess until 2 p.m. this afternoon.